Okay, the next person is Stephen. Stephen Domingo.
Alright. Hey everybody. My name is Stephen Paulino Domingo the First. I also go by Esteban Sunday. I've got 2, possibly 3 poems depending on what my time is like. I've got time? Oh, for sure. So, this first poem is called ESSJ, but the S's are dollar signs. Streamlined on the cutting edge of school to prison pipelines where Story Road divides the Norteños of Mount Pleasant High School and the Soreños of James Lick High School, who keep it gangsta to the streets. Cross that line on Halloween and anyone with Cortez Nike checks gets shaded. We spend more money on prisons than we do on education. In 7th grade, my classmate told me he liked my shoes, and that K-Swiss stood for kill a scrap when I see a scrap. Welcome to the family, cuz that pop is gunshots. Down the street, get a free mugshot. Crips driving through the hood in an Acura Integra with the chopper out the window spraying bullets down the block to Bogini Park next to my middle school, where my homie had a gun to his chest for being black and wearing red. Talk some shit and get dealt with real quick behind the Carl's Jr. on the corner of Quimby and White, where my cousin went from selling dub sacks to the meth game down the street from my elementary school. To Eastridge Mall, where middle schoolers from Quimby Oak, Shaboya, Leyva come to kick it, and the cops tell you to keep it moving if you're in a group of 3 or more, because you're already committing gang activity by being a young person of color. Gentrified to the Eastside Union School District Gentrified to the Eastside Union School to prison pipeline, Black, Latino, Vietnamese, and Filipino students suffer from standardized test scores, budget cuts, and the demonization of youth. 5 of my friends were called into the office for wearing blue shirts on the same day because the cops were on campus to ask them if they banged. From being sent home for dress code violation, to suspension, to expulsion, to incarceration, where you can drop your kid off at the on-site daycare center and get jumped in behind the gym, spending more money on security cameras and monitors instead of up-to-date textbooks, the panopticon waits, ready to put us in jail and kill ourselves off, shrinking teacher salaries and increasing class sizes. I spent 9 years in Eastside Union public schools. Now, as a college student, I can only read at a rate of 20 pages an hour. I am below average. But I was one of few that made it out of the pipeline and into a university. I'm from Eastside San Jose, where the rich live in their country club golf course hills, perpetually looking down on us. If you don't really know me, my poetry is super heavy, and that was sort of context for this poem that I workshopped in class. This one's called Traffic Stop on Tully and Parrot. It's a 4-part perspective poem. Thanks for the shout out. This first one is called Code 4. At 5:36 p.m., I make a left-hand turn westbound onto Monterey Road. I spot a black Chrysler 200 with dealer plates headed eastbound. The driver is an African-American male with a Hispanic-American male passenger, both 18 to 35. I make a U-turn at the end of the median and begin pursuit. There was light traffic, but we were able to catch up with the Chrysler in a short time. The perpetrators make a right-hand turn northbound onto Tully Road. Officer Gomez and I pull over as they tailgate a car to beat a red light on Parrot Street. I make my way to the driver's side window, obtain his license and insurance documents, as well as the passenger's information. Officer Gomez conducted the traffic stop while I ran the information through the system. The driver is a cook at a Korean restaurant and a father of 2. The passenger is a graduate student at San Jose State. I wait for Gomez to finish conducting his interaction. These are not the ones. The second part of the poem is called Package Thief Strikes Again. So we make a left turn on Monterey and Hoyt points out this black Chrysler, no plates. This motherfucker's bloodthirsty as hell, so it's just a matter of time. We follow them all the way down towards the east side. These pendejos obviously see us coming and they think they can lose us at a yellow light, like for real? No way they can get away. I hit the lights, we roll through the intersection, and Hoyt makes a beeline for the driver. He gets the information and starts running that shit. I go for the passenger and get his ID. Spanish last name, lives in the east side. He's got those indigenous eyes, dark skin, wearing red and black. I'm thinking we got ourselves a norteño. So I start drilling them with the questions on the off chance they're stupid enough to confess some shit. No bites. I give the passenger's papers to Hoyt, who tells me that the black one's clean. I tell Hoyt to let me do all the talking because knowing his pasty ass, he'd probably catch a case. And we don't want another Mike Brown situation. We're already short-staffed. We can't afford to have another one of us on paid leave. Especially not Hoyt with his ball-busting ass. If anyone should get a vacation, it should be me for the Oscar-worthy performance I gave because I can tell these assholes are getting upset. I'm telling them they passed on my test. We're looking for bricks of cocaine, Uzis under the seat. I tell them about that cabron with the crack balloon in his ass. I said I caught him because he didn't have no plates. Remember that car full of M16s from Oakland that Chen and Jeffries brought in? I told them me and Hoyt caught him. The Mexican's eyes are wide open right about now. I've got them by the balls. At this point, I look over to Hoyt, who's shaking his head no. After all that, these aren't even the right guys. I'm stalling until Hoyt gives back their shit. So I start blowing smoke up their asses, admitting I fit the profile myself, and those dicks at CHP are always pulling me over. I tell them they're fucking lucky they passed my test, because we could have gotten them for those plates. That's my bread and butter. I've written up people for less than them, so I figure it's not even worth the paperwork. They've already wasted enough of our time. That's when Vega calls in about the package thief in Evergreen again, like we could do something about it. What a fucking dumbass. This one's called The Driver. We're about to hit up the dispensary when we see them turning and we both call it. We knew it too because they had to drive around the island and even be behind us. They followed us from Burger King on Monterey all the way down to fucking Tully, bruh. But you know what? I got my license back, I made the payment on the car, the plates are on the way, registration's in the mail, I'm ready for it. There's nothing they can get me on, and homeboy's an Asian, a student, ain't got shit on his record, we're golden. So we make a turn on Tully and they're following behind a little bit. We make a yellow light, easy. Whoop whoop. The fucking pigs run the red light just to catch us. We're in the far left lane trying to turn, but they make us pull all the way over to the right, in front of that school that's next to the fairgrounds, kind of by that parking lot where they have the flea market on Saturdays. I roll my whole window down because I ain't afraid. There's nothing they can do because we're with the shit. The white cop runs up on me real quick. I hand him my papers and tell him I'm waiting on the DMV to send me my plates and stickers. I told him to go ahead and run that shit, please. But then the brown cop starts knocking on the passenger side window, and I roll that shit down all the way too. They don't need us to roll the other one down. There's no law requiring it. And he asked for homeboy's ID. There's no reason they need his ID for a regular traffic stop, so I know they're fucking with us. But homeboy's from the east side, so he ain't new. He hands the cop his ID. The cop looks him up and down and starts accusing us, talking about bricks of cocaine and showing us how big with his hands, looking for choppers under the seat. I'm like, go ahead and search the car. All they're gonna find is car seats and diapers, bruh. He starts telling us about some thugs from Oakland and how he did some extra shit to some dude with a handful of crack in his asshole. Some bullshit. I'm thinking, what the fuck does this have to do with us? And he starts trying to play it off, talking about we passed his test and how he gets pulled over by CHP for fitting a profile. First of all, he told us they just profiled us. Secondly, why is his brown ass getting pulled over? He knows it's fucked up. I'm just trying to keep it together because I know homeboy's pissed by the look on his face. Brown cop is trying to connect with us covering up for the white pig. They didn't even run the insurance. If they did, they would have seen the cars registered to Jamaica. If they didn't bother with it, they didn't even bother with it because they knew the stop was some racist bullshit. They pulled over the wrong motherfuckers clearly. They could have spent that time on the killers out here, but instead they're fucking with us because we fit a damn profile. I can't wait to get my tax return back. I can't believe we paid for this shit to happen to us. And this last section is called Filipino American. I grab the door handle and grip it tightly to keep myself from panicking. My heart rate goes up. I throw up a little in my mouth. I keep my head pointed forward. Every time it happens, I can never believe it. One time, they followed me from Taylor all the way down to Ocala. This time, I wasn't even driving, but he knocked on my window and I gave him my papers. Upon seeing my address, he asked me where Rubian was, and his eyes lit up like every other officer who's asked me the same question. The east side. I've never felt so brown as another brown face raids my skin looking for bricks to flip and triggers to point at me in the court of law. He sticks his hand under my nose, bragging about the fistful of crack he pulled out of an addict's asshole, calling me a criminal because I was riding around with my friend. Whatever model minorities look like, they must not look like me. called Ungodliness. The path to hell is a descending spiral staircase of night terrors for steps and a lack of sleep for motivation. And I am a snail, exiled from Eden, carrying that spiral upon my back, taking 12 steps away from sobriety with my belly to the ground like a serpent, branded with holy water to forever kneel in shame for ungodliness. I stopped believing in God when my parents paid my high school's tuition for my private Catholic education and introduced me to the upper-class offspring who believe privilege is earned. I'm pretty sure that their fortune, that thought, along with their fortune, was inherited in their genes. My father worked 8 hours a day to pay our bills, and then another 8 hours at the side of my bedridden grandmother who just survived her 4th heart attack, which left 4 hours of night terrors and 4 hours of sleep deprivation. And he earned more than my classmate's father's donation. So I dressed up for saints' days and skipped the monthly liturgy to study for my U.S. history test, wondering why the Spanish-American War didn't even mention the Philippines. Why weren't Filipinos mentioned in the United Farm Workers Movement? Why did I have to graduate to hear about the I Hotel? The only reason I went to church was for my parents. They believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of all there is, the seen and unseen. My mother spent 3 weeks making me memorize word for word every prayer in my Sunday school book, yelling at me as if every mistake I made would invoke the wrath of God. But what is God to a non-believer? Every Sunday since my confirmation, I stood at the back of church waiting for the Samoan choir to get to the chorus so that I may start collecting money from the Eastside San Jose residences as they walk into the Most Holy Trinity's backlit Jesus at the altar. I see a vast array of struggles in the eyes of unaware toddlers, awkward teens, tormented middle-aged, and the elderly on the cusp of life to ask God for wine and forgiveness. Unseen is the crushing grip of capitalism and gentrification that takes place in the community. As the youngest cousin of my generation, my grandmother waited for me to grow up before passing away. When I turned 18, my whole family gathered and prayed the rosary every day until her funeral. I recited those words with the 3 remaining generations our matriarch left behind and got contact high in the presence of the Holy Spirit. I regret not saying anything at her funeral. Thus, I began my descent. Now my heart breaks every time my parents make me lead the Lord's Prayer when we visit my grandparents' graves after Mass. But I recite the words and swallow my forked tongue, for this forbidden fruit will leave a bad taste in their mouths. During my first confession, I didn't say anything because I never sinned until they told me to confess.